Normally, when I do a training or an in-service for A-Line, what I'd like to do is cover the tech of the product. What separates us from like a Dr. Scholl's or a custom-made orthotic? Because oftentimes when you have customers or patients or clients, they'll ask, you know, is that like a Dr. Scholl's or is that an orthotic? And we want to sort of differentiate ourselves between the two. It helps with, you know, getting them to understand and wear the A-Line. So when I answer those questions, a Dr. Scholl's is just foam. It's just cushioning underneath your foot. And if your foot is not shaped properly, and we'll go over that in just a second, it's not going to move properly. So it might feel great for the patient initially, it might feel great for your client initially, and they're only going to spend $20 or $30 on that Dr. Scholl's, and it's cushioning underneath the foot. It's like moving on a pillow. And if your foot doesn't move properly, it just doesn't move properly on a pillow. So that's really not what they're looking for. What they're looking for is proper foot movement. A custom-made orthotic is on the other end of the spectrum. A custom-made is casted or molded for your foot, and what it does is it puts your foot in a certain position. If your foot doesn't move properly, if you have a hyper-rigid foot, or you have some sort of a forefoot deformity, I'll make a custom-made pair of orthotics for you. Those are somewhere around $800 to $900. You're going to wait 3 or 4 weeks. You're going to get them back, and they're going to be very, very hard. But the choice we make with a custom-made orthotic and why some athletes wear them is their foot doesn't and can't move well, so we have to pick a spot for it. Most oftentimes, I'll do this in industry. If somebody's got to work all day long on their feet and their foot's in pain when they're doing it, I can find a position for the foot to be in less pain. But that's not what we see every day here in a facility like this. We see athletes that are active, and their feet can move well if guided to move properly, if given the proper shape. So that's what an A-Line does. So when somebody comes up and they grab the A-Line, or they'll come up to you and say, what's the difference between this and a Dr. Scholl's, or this and a custom-made orthotic, I say we sort of fit in the middle of those two groups. We're looking for people who have an active, they're active, they work out, they run, they walk, whatever it is that they do, their foot has a slight biomechanical indifference. And we'll see it here on the stand, but what that basically means is their foot pronates or supinates, and it gives them hip pain, back pain, or knee pain. So now you've got the picture of what an athlete or what a potential customer would be for your A-Lines. Somebody who's active, somebody who has experienced shin splints or plantar fasciitis or a hip pain or something along those lines, and you and that patient or that customer or that client have decided that it's really about the way that their foot moves. Their foot is causing their back pain. So they're looking for something like a Dr. Scholl's, a custom-made orthotic, and they come to you looking for an A-Line. And so you've decided that it's an active patient that needs a little bit of support and help. So every day, if you see the number of athletes that come through here, you can imagine how many people could probably use an A-Line on a daily basis. Either, you know, they've got that shin splint, they've got that back pain, and then they haven't connected the two. They haven't connected that their back pain or their knee pain is relative to the way their foot moves. That's where you step in. Your knowledge of the human body, the way the body moves, the way the body works, you can make that connection for them. And then you can make that connection utilizing our FIT system, and that's what this is really all about. So the first thing I like to cover is that tech, and you can see in the product itself, it's quite dynamic in nature. It's just not a piece of foam that you take out of the shoe, and it's not a hyper-rigid, custom-made orthotic that's going to really cause more pain or be uncomfortable for your patient. It's an active solution for active people. So that's basically the tech in it. So now we've determined that they might need they might need an A-Line. They might need something to help with their movement of their foot and give that foot proper shape. Now we get them on the stand. So what I have them do is I have them take their shoes off, and I have them roll their pant legs up so we can see the ankle or just above the ankle. What we're looking for, and this is completely up to you when you're fitting your patients, when you're fitting your athletes, we want the ankles to be running underneath the knees, to be running underneath the hips, and the shoulders to be square. So every once in a while, with some of our larger athletes, taller, wider athletes, we'll move the left foot plate out to the second or third spot. Quite frankly, I have it in that middle spot about 90% of the time. The one question that comes up every once in a while is an athlete will say, well, I don't stand like this on the field. Absolutely correct. We're not doing a dynamic assessment of motion right now. We're just sort of statically taking a look at their alignment. And we do that in this position here. So we understand what they mean. That might not feel completely natural to them, but this is the position we want them in for that point. Then what I have them do is put about a 5-degree bend in their knees. We just sort of bend the knees slightly, maybe a little bit more than that. And what that does, that mimics when we walk, and we go single leg to move forward, and when we're walking, we've got about a 5-degree bend in our knee. What that does is it takes your body weight and puts it right over the mid-tarsal or middle part of the foot. That's what we're looking to change or sort of modify with the A-line. So we're looking to see how the mid portion of your foot handles that body weight, handles stress, okay? And then what we do is we just turn the lasers on. And in most facilities and gyms and fitness centers like that, there will be mirrors just like that over there. What we do is we turn this around so you, the patient, the athlete, could see what I see when I'm going through the fit process. And what we see is that you can see your left ankle and your right ankle is sort of leaning in toward the medial, the inside post. We'd like to see the ankle equidistant in between the two posts. We call that subtalar neutral. If the ankle remains neutral, the foot has the ability to flex and extend like it wants to move properly. If it's turned in like yours is here, your foot has to make an adaptation. As it turns in without an A-line, the next thing that has to happen is you're going to just take your heels and rotate them out a little bit to get to push off on the great toe. That compensation is what causes hip, knee, and back pain. So we want to sort of take that out of the picture. So right now what we've got is a patient, an athlete like yourself, seeing what we mean by proper foot motion and proper alignment. This, what we're looking at right now, particularly on your left side, is not great alignment. We want to make an adaptation to that, a change to that. As I'm talking, I look down and you come to the letter V. That's the length of your medial longitudinal arch. So we're going to measure the A-line. We're going to fit the A-line on two things. One is the length of the arch. So right now you're going to step off the back of the platform. I'm going to get a letter, a size V.
There we go.
Yep. So now what I've done is we've got the Fit Pack size V. So what I do when I do a fitting, what I do is place the A-lines down on the fit system, and the lasers are, if they're on, we can turn them off, or what I do is just reach down and I hold the A-line with my index fingers like this so they don't slide, and I cover up the lasers. Go ahead and step back in. Perfect. Nice. I'm covering up the lasers because a lot of my athletes are pretty slick. They're smart. They know that they want to put the laser on their knees, so what they'll do is they'll look and they'll put their knees out right on the laser. So I want to take that out of the picture. So I cover them up while I'm doing when they step back in. But now you can see we've got the proper length. I picked the size V, and I know it's the proper size because the ball of your great toe, right there at that first metatarsal phalangeal joint right here, that fits directly in the center of that diamond-shaped window. If it doesn't, if the A-line's too short or too long, we have to get the next size up or down. But we know size-wise right now it's a perfect fit. The next thing that we notice is we look at the lasers, and now the lasers are pretty much dead center on your ankle joints. That's a much better look. See how the laser's in the center right now? You bend your knees, right there. That's the center of that ankle joint, center here. We're equidistant in between the two posts. That's a much better look. So the athlete sees before and after. They saw what improper alignment looks like. Now they see what proper alignment looks like. They're educated now. They know what we're doing. So from this standpoint, I wouldn't have to make an adjustment on your A-lines. Sometimes either one side or both won't come completely neutral. So it was severely pronated to start. It comes a little bit more, but it's not completely neutral. That's when we'd slip down here and make an adjustment on the heel cup. I just bevel that heel cup 5 degrees. That mimics the tabs that comes with every pair of A-lines. So if they needed it, and you don't, but if they did need it, if we needed a 5mm adjustment, I would make a clip. I'd clip the medial side of that that right A-line. But we didn't have to in your case. So we've got the black and the gray clips. The gray clips are the smaller ones, the 2mm clips. I use those first. Even if on an assessment here, if I think an athlete needs a black clip, I use the gray one first. Do that for a couple of weeks. Let them get acclimated to both the A-line and that adjustment that I made on the rear foot before I put a black clip on there. Okay? So we start with gray, even if they need it.
So question,
right.
Why is that?
Why? Great question. Great question. 4 things are occurring as we get proper foot motion. One is the intrinsic and extrinsic muscles. Those are 2. Intrinsic and extrinsic muscles of the foot. They're adapting to the new position that we put the body in. So then now the intrinsic muscles have mechanical advantage. They can fire. They have the ability to give you a little bit of shape. The extrinsic muscles, your calf muscle, your lower leg muscles start to fire better now. They work better because there's proper shape to your foot. So they've adapted to the position, the new position of your foot. And most importantly, the neuromotor centers from your brain all the way down to your foot now are in a better state because your foot's in a neutral position. So the brain is now looking down and measuring and working with the foot, and it's saying, thank you. Before, I had to think about whatever the activity was that you were going to do. If it was a squat, your brain at that moment was thinking, wow, now I've got to correct the foot and lift the weight. Now all it's going to do is lift the weight. So we've sort of freed up the highway of that neuromotor center. We've taken all the traffic off of it. Now it's just a great freeway for communication between your head and your foot. In addition to that, the A-line is giving your foot shape. So your body's beginning to adapt to that shape. Does that happen each and every time? Not often. Not all the time, actually. They're going to still need to use the A-lines, but what we're seeing is the way the body moves is much better than it was before. So the answer to your question in a sort of a long-winded way is, yes, there are times when an athlete can step away from the clips, the black or the gray clips, over the course of time. So that looks like a really good fit. So we've gone before and after. The athlete sees before what their alignment looked like, and then after what their alignment looks like, the fit's done. What I do now is, if you step off the back, what I'd end up doing is just reaching over on the shelf, and whatever fitting system that you're using, whatever system you're using for inventory, I've got an Active Plus, or a Golf. I give the patient the Active Plus, have them feel it. Which one do you think is going to feel better? And then I have them put them in their shoes and walk around a little bit. So if you guys are doing it here, or you're over at the facility in Danvers, and there's a bunch of kids coming through and you're fitting them, go through the fit process, make sure they get what's going on, slide them in the shoes, have them walk around a little bit. And then the last piece of it is, a couple of expectations for the patient, the athlete. The break-in process. Because we've changed the position and that neuromotor system that we talked about earlier is adapted to this, their feet may get a little sore and tired the first couple of days. It's a lot like lifting for the first time. You lift and then you wake up the next morning and you're like, whoa, what did I do? You know it was a good workout, but the muscles are stiff and a little sore. They're not painful. They're just stiff and sore. That's getting used to the A-line.
So they shouldn't use it if they have a tournament that weekend?
Great question. Yeah, no, it's a good point. Yeah, let them break in a little bit. So like when we're out with the PGA professionals, if I fit them on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, they don't wear them that weekend. They get used to them over the course of time, maybe on the driving range. Same thing with your athletes. Wear them around here for a little bit, wear them for a couple of hours, take them out. The next day, a couple hours more. By day 3 or 4, they're off and running. Okay? So there's a break-in process. And most oftentimes, it's all about just the stiffness and soreness. If we see a blister on an A-line, more than likely it wasn't sized appropriately. Okay? In other words, if we blister, there's some rotation, and that person's not setting down into that A-line like they should. So they blister, and that's not what we want to see. That should never happen, okay? And then the next question that we ask, the 2 more questions that they ask often is, can they wash them? Because they can get dirty, they're out running around doing whatever they're doing, and some of their extreme sports, yes. Just warm water, clean it off, let them dry. And then how long will they last? Most of the time we tell our athletes they're going to last about a year and a half. And really what we'd like to do is have them reassessed at about a year. Just like you did, I saw a difference. From the last time that he came in and fit you, we see a slight difference. The size won't change, but the clipping and the movement pattern might. So let's reassess them, and if they need a new pair of A-lines, you can get them a new pair.
Sounds good.
Cool. When I can't get them to understand how to do a squat, or like what I'll do is I'll put the mini down and I'll have them stand in front of it. And what I'll say is, listen, keep that laser right on your knee. I'm not trying to fit an A-line right now, but I'm getting them to understand movement patterns. So what I'll do is I'll describe, go ahead and get into a squat, and they'll give me this, or they'll give me this, and don't move your knee, but they don't understand what that means. I can help them here with this. So utilize the laser off the fitting system. I'll take, a lot of times when I'm with the PGA guys, this is all I'll have in my hand. It's just one foot plate. Because when they go to swing, we have something in golf called a swing fault called sway. If you can't move your hip properly, and if you can't, then I'd send them to see somebody like you to get the hip motion proper. But if they can't, what they do is this, instead of turning into their hip. So I can put that laser right on their hip have them initiate their swing, and they sway off the line and say, that's what I mean by sway. See the laser? It's not on your knee right now.
I didn't think that's pretty cool.
So the laser in this setting, when you're teaching people how to move, can be utilized. That's the nice part about being able to take that foot plate right off the top of the fit stop and go for it.
Absolutely.
Great.